We're here to provide the Corpus Christi region with an update on the Harbor Bridge project. Specifically, we're addressing the serious concerns that have arisen on this project and steps that TxDOT is taking to reinforce that safety remains our highest priority as we work to assure the new Harbor Bridge is properly and safely constructed. Our actions are further intended to address the lack of responsiveness, specifically regarding safety issues, by the contractor for the project, Flatiron Dragados, LLC. This is unfortunate, it's disappointing, and it's unacceptable. For some time now, there have been questions from TxDOT regarding the sufficiency of key design elements of the new Harbor Bridge. Over the course of the project, there have been assurances by Flatiron Dragados that these issues had been or would be addressed. But in order to validate that the safety concerns were appropriately addressed, TxDOT hired a fully independent bridge engineering firm to provide a third-party review of the bridge design. The independent review was conducted by Sistra International Bridge Technologies. Earlier this year, this review identified several areas of concern that generally involved instances where the bridge design did not meet various industry standards specified by TxDOT. In particular, the concerns center around design issues which include the foundations, load and weight capacity, structure, and the future stability of the mainstay bridge. TxDOT formally raised these issues with Flatiron Dragados by a notice of non-conforming work in a letter dated April 29th, 2022. These issues led to immediate concerns with additional construction of the bridge, which led TxDOT to issue a letter dated July 15th, 2022, in which TxDOT directed Flatiron Dragados to pause construction on the bridge project in order to ensure that further construction did not result in any unsafe conditions. Despite numerous meetings between TxDOT, the Flatiron Dragados team, and IBT, Flatiron Dragados has refused to acknowledge the safety issues that have been identified or to take any steps to correct them. This is unacceptable and places TxDOT in the unfortunate position today of having to provide Flatiron Dragados with a notice of default. This morning, we sent a letter to Flatiron Dragados notifying them of this determination and directing the steps that must be taken. Flatiron Dragados has 15 days from today to definitively address the safety issues that have been raised. Should the contractor fail to adequately address these concerns in this time frame, TxDOT will issue a formal default and begin the process to replace them as the contractor on the project. So moving ahead, safety remains the top priority with TxDOT, and we will not compromise on that with the Harbor Bridge project. Should we have to move forward with terminating this contractor, TxDOT will expedite the process to move ahead safely and deliberately by securing new contractors to complete the work on the Harbor Bridge, specifically to address the safety issues that have been established and finish the job. Unfortunately, having to take these steps to ensure that all identified safety issues are appropriately addressed may result in some additional delay. We're not yet able to qualify or quantify what that delay may be, but I assure you we will do everything we can to expedite the process and to move this project forward to completion. Additionally, and again, we pledge to keep the public informed as we move forward and to deliver this bridge project safely. At this time, we have time for a few questions.
Mark, about the idea about the documents that everybody's been wanting to know about the process of the new Harbor Bridge and the fact that TxDOT has gone to the Attorney General's office to call for some exemption that those documents not be released to the public. In light of what you're doing here today, this notice of default, is that part of what's in those documents that you don't want the public to see?
Well, I certainly wouldn't characterize it in that manner. And one of the things that I want to point out is that today we are posting on our website our letter to Flatiron Dragados, the notice of default. We're also posting 5 technical memoranda, engineering reports that were provided to us on Friday by IBT, the independent third-party engineer that we've had on this project. In addition to that, we're providing a copy of the letter of non-conforming work from April 19th, 2022 to Flatiron Dragados. our pause letter from July 15th of 2022, a response letter from Flatiron Dragados from August 4th of 2022, and our response to that letter from Flatiron Dragados on August 10th of 2022. Now, we do have a responsibility to work with the Attorney General's office to review any open records request. This is, as you all may and hopefully appreciate, you know, a critical infrastructure piece. There's reviews that have to take place with regard to that. And we wanted to genuinely give, over the past couple of months, a fair opportunity to work with Flatiron Dragados and our independent bridge engineer to address these safety issues, and to do that in a manner that would hopefully be able to bring us together with a common understanding of how to address those. Unfortunately, we're not there today, and so that's why we're taking the action that we're taking.
We talked to Governor Abbott last night on Chris 16. We talked about this topic and a few things, transparency, safety, and so on. And he said that he's getting with TxDOT, you folks, he's getting with the Attorney General to figure out why would there be this exemption asked for documents not to be released. And he alluded to something like there could be some legal action that would be taking place. Is that possible, that that's part of what's in those documents that you want the Attorney General to look at and not release to the public?
Well, again, I wouldn't characterize it that way.
So no legal action?
I wouldn't characterize it that way either.
So there is legal action?
There's not legal action at this point. Obviously, our contract allows for certain remedies for the state of Texas to consider should Flatiron Dragados fail to live up to their requirements under this contract.
What are those remedies?
Well, those remedies could be to seek damages from them to the state of Texas for the cost of us having to replace them. We're not at that point yet. We're not at that point yet. We're in the process of giving them a fair opportunity, as we have, to respond to these safety issues. But we do have, as I mentioned, remedies in our contract to address those. So let me go to somebody else for a question. Yes, sir.
Chase Rogers with the Corpus Christi Caller Times. Via open records request, we obtained some letters that show that TxDOT had notified Flatiron Dragados of a dispute over the design as early as June 2021, which is a little bit earlier than the timeline that you provided. Can you explain when TxDOT first became aware of these kind of design concerns that they have, and why more than a year has passed since TxDOT has come out publicly to talk about those concerns?
Sure. I'll touch on some of that, and then I may ask Graham Bettis, our bridge engineer, to talk a little bit more about those specific concerns. Early on, and I would, and as my recollection is, that it may have even preceded the July of 2021 date, we have raised issues with Flatiron Dragados on safety concerns that our team have identified. And some of this goes back to even the point in time where we worked with Flatiron Dragados to remove FIG engineer as the engineer of record on the project. Throughout that course of time, Flatiron Dragados has given us assurances. They've given us information that their bridge meets the safety requirements that TxDOT has specified in our contract and that are consistent industry standards nationwide. That's why it was important for us to bring in an objective third-party bridge engineer, qualified, experienced designing these types of projects, to look independently at those issues. And that's what Sistra IBT has been doing over the past more than a year. And it was through the course of that analysis, and as you all may be able to appreciate, a bridge like this is very complex. And through the course of that time frame, Sistra has come back, IBT has come back and corroborated those issues in areas of concern. If you will, I'd like to pause here and let Mr. Bettis speak to a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand the role of our independent structural analysis in all this. And Mr. Williams is right. We we had some concerns and questions regarding the design going back some time, and we attempted to resolve those issues, and as Mr. Williams mentioned, we were assured that the issues would be resolved, and we were working with FDLLC to try to do that. But given the concerns, we really felt it was important to get a true independent structural analysis of this done, and we were very, very deliberate in the way we went about that, and we were very deliberate in keeping them independent, and we didn't want to feed them information or give them anything extra. We wanted them working truly independently, and that's what they did. And so when they came back and independently corroborated a lot of the issues and a lot of the concerns, that's really why things have sped up in the last couple of months.
I have a question maybe you could answer. There was construction continuing after the recognition of some design flaws. Does that mean you're going to have to tear down everything in the pylons to address those safety flaws?
We're not at that conclusion right now. As we've worked,
The point is, what I mean to say is they kept building on top of you recognizing things that should have stopped construction a year ago.
well, we believe, and this, again, let me maybe explain. This is also a design-build project. So there are design efforts that go on simultaneously with construction, and we felt like there was ample opportunity for Flatiron to have addressed these issues through the construction process, and we believe that there are remedies that can be undertaken even now to address those issues, with the structure that's there. We still have, more to be understood about what those may be, but we believed and we were hopeful throughout that process that we would be able to see some movement on the part of Flatiron Dragados to take necessary steps to address those, and those just have not happened, unfortunately.
Rumors of pillars sinking, is that something that has been recognized or addressed?
I have not heard those types of rumors or any, looking at my team here. Lente, did you want to maybe talk to that?
Yes, we've heard the rumors, but nothing that confirms that. So we have no information that supports that those pillars are sinking.
Then, Mr. Williams, I have another question about cost overruns. As of July 15th, the TxDOT spokesperson had said that $774 million of the project had been paid, with a total budget of $930 million. Talking to state lawmakers, which called for more information on this issue, they said that they've been assured that there won't be additional costs to the local governmental entities. Is that something that you can confirm? And if there's cost overruns, what's the source of that funding going to be?
So I can confirm, and we have had communication even today to reaffirm that position that there's not going to be additional cost to the local entities for this. I'm not here today to speculate on what the additional costs may be to the state of Texas. We would, as we mentioned earlier, look to pursue any contract remedies that we have to recover those costs that are owed. And but most importantly, we're going to see this project through to completion, and we're committed to that. Our commission is committed to that, and we want to reassure the region that that is going to be our focus moving forward.
And then the second part of that question was, and I know it hasn't happened yet, but the potential source of that funding if there are cost overruns.
It would come through statewide sources, the transportation fund. Let me go to this
Mr.
gentleman.
Williams,
Yes, sir.
Ron Hamey, Chris 6 News and KZTV. Had there been any rumors of, we've heard rumors that there might have been some injuries on the work site in the last few years. Can you guys confirm any of that?
I can't confirm, but again, I'll turn to Valente, Mr. Olivares, our district engineer, to maybe speak to that.
Yeah, I'm not aware or can confirm any injuries on the project site. That doesn't mean there hasn't been any. You'd have to refer back to Flatiron Dragados with that question.
Also, had any Flatiron employees or TxDOT employees brought to your attention any concerns from the start of the project when Flatiron took over?
Can you rephrase that question? And
Yeah.
concerns in what manner?
Had any Flatiron employees or even TxDOT employees that were on site brought any safety concerns to your attention?
Not that I'm aware of.
Any idea of, assuming that everything goes forward, whether you continue with Flatiron or not, a timetable as to when the whole project will be completed now?
Well, today I'm not able to speculate on what that might be. We need to go through these next 2 weeks with Flatiron Dragados. And then going forward from there, we would be working with a bridge designer, either Flatiron or someone, who's committed to addressing these issues. And that'll be where we have those conversations. I will say, though, that we will do everything that we can to expedite this process, to expedite whatever contract mechanisms are available, and to deliver this project as quickly as possible, but as safely as possible. We cannot compromise on that, and we've got to really have a partner that's committed to that with TxDOT.
You've given us a timetable on the 15 days and what you'll do if they don't satisfy your demands. How long from that point do you think a new designer or company would be on board to start building or redesigning or reconstructing whatever needs to be done?
There would, and again, I want to be fair to the current contractor in Flatiron and not spend too much time speculating on next steps. We, as we have always done, work to be as objective as possible with Flatiron Dragados to give them every opportunity to address and take the needed steps. But I can say that there are contracting mechanisms that we have as the state of Texas that we would employ, emergency contracting mechanisms to first and foremost make sure that we've got staff and personnel on site, that our Corpus Christi district, Valente Olivares and his team have got the personnel needed to maintain the project site throughout, and we're committed to doing that. We could do that immediately, and then we can also take steps to immediately begin the process of seeking out and procuring additional design services and then contract services after that. That will be something that we would look to lay out more specifically should it come to that. And again, I'll reiterate that we hope that the current contractor will meet their obligations.
Mark, about the people that actually live around here and live around that bridge and so on, and I know you want to talk to them as well. How frustrated are you about this process? We're told it was supposed to be done in 2020. Now it's 2024 and beyond, it seems. How frustrated are you in trying to move this forward when you have a designer that's really not coming forward and talking to you?
This has been a huge source of frustration for TxDOT, and I know specifically for Mr. Olivares and his team here in Corpus Christi. This is a source of pride for us. This is a generational bridge, and we want to see it done right, and we want to see it done well. And it has been hugely disappointing, and it is disappointing to be here, and I know it's disappointing for the people in the region. The people have to see it every day, the people on the North Shore that have to live through some of the construction that continues to go on. So we've got to get this fixed, and we've got to get it done right. I share that frustration, we share that frustration, but I want to assure you all of our commitment to see it through.
One final question from me. Do you have will this prompt you to look at other bridges around the state that have been worked on by any of the parties involved to see if these design flaws carry over to other bridges that have been built in the last 10, 15 years?
Well, we have a continuous process through our bridge division, and one of the things that I want to point out too is we take a lot of pride in our bridges here in Texas. In fact, and Graham Bettis and his team are, in my view, the best in the nation at what they do. And I think that also shows up in our regular federal bridge rating standards. We're either number 1 or number 2 nationwide, and this is a state that has nearly twice as many bridges as the next state, or bridge class structures, I would say. And so we have a lot of pride and we have a lot of confidence in what we do. I don't, and we don't have any concerns elsewhere. We believe that this is a unique situation right now that we're dealing with, but it's certainly something that we continue to keep an eye on going forward.
Mark, what can you tell the people when all is said and done that it is safe to drive on that bridge, given the concerns that we had all along with the defects in that process as well? How can you make them feel confident this bridge will be safe?
Well, we're going to make them feel confident. We're going to do everything we can to assure them of that. This is why we're here today, is to emphasize that important point of how critical safety is for us. And we're going to continue as we go through to talk about the design and the work on this bridge as we get it corrected, and to move forward with the region having that sense of confidence. We owe it to all of the women and men and the businesses in this region who are going to be looking to that bridge for generations to know and have confidence in that structure. Let me go to one more question here. We'll go.
I had two
Yep.
quick ones. One of them was touched on previously about open records requests. I know that we've submitted quite a few concerning the project. And some of the responsive documents are being released today, it sounds like. So I'm asking, why is this kind of press conference and these documents being released now? And is this a reaction to kind of state lawmakers calling on TxDOT to do so? And then the second question is about the current Harbor Bridge, the frequency of which it's inspected.
Yes.
And if there should be any concerns.
Okay,
with the
so-
old current Harbor Bridge.
Right, so let me take the first one, and then I would really like both Mr. Bettis and Mr. Olivares to talk about that second one, because that's very important. So the timing for releasing this information, and I would go back to my comments about the open records requests and our work to work with Flatiron Dragados over those last couple of months, to give them every opportunity to come to the table, to work collaboratively with us and solve these issues, and to give our team as well an opportunity to kind of hear from them. So a lot of the information that was produced, I think I would characterize it as draft, because we wanted to hear from what they had to share with us, detailed wind loading reports and other things. Where we are today is on Friday, we received those final 5 technical memorandums, signed and sealed by a licensed engineer, on just reaffirming those points that, of safety. And it was at that point that we felt like that we could conclude that it was necessary to begin this process of taking this next step to issue this notice of default. And we, because of the interest, and rightfully so, we understand. There's interest with the lawmakers, there's interest with the public, there's interest with the media, to know more about what's going on, that it was necessary for us to come out and explain where we're at today, particularly with several things coming together. And we did take an opportunity to sit down with a number of our lawmakers in the region this morning. I think we'll have even another conversation this afternoon to talk to them further about where we're at and what information we're sharing with you all today. But let me allow both Graham and Valente to speak to the issue of the existing bridge, and then I think we've got 2 more questions, and then we'll have to go. So, Graham?
In terms of the existing bridge, we didn't stop inspecting it just because we've got the ongoing project. We've got a very robust statewide bridge inspection program. It's part of a federally mandated bridge inspection program. And as part of that, we perform what we call routine safety inspections. And because of the bridge type of the existing harbor bridge, we perform additional, more in-depth inspections of that. So we're looking at it very regularly, just like we look at all bridges around the state regularly. And Mr. Williams was nice enough to point out where we rank. We take a great deal of pride in our statewide inventory of bridges, and not just the fact that we're inspecting them, but we're doing something with those inspection findings. And we've got what we call, and what the governor's been kind enough to call, the best condition bridges in the country, and that is based on the condition ratings as applied as part of that statewide bridge inspection program. And the existing harbor bridge will continue to be inspected as long as traffic remains.
Similar to what Mr. Bettis mentioned, inspections on that existing harbor bridge have not stopped since the beginning of this construction project. So as long as that bridge is in service, which means it'll take direct traffic, we will continue our inspections that are done periodically, pretty much yearly, and then we'll also schedule maintenance projects similar to the one that we have coming out this fall. So we actually are bidding a maintenance project this fall that'll probably go into construction before the end of the year or the beginning of next year.
Yes, ma'am.
As a resident who lives on North Beach, I see that there is a lot of construction on the roads there. Will there be changes for the traffic, or will that continue as we see the construction of the bridge continue on?
Well, let me make just a comment, and then I'll probably turn back to Mr. Olivares to speak a little bit more about that. But TxDOT will ensure that the project and the work zone elements are continuously maintained, and that we will look at every opportunity to progress work throughout that project. And not everything with the project has to do with the bridge itself, as you know, with North Beach there. So we will be taking whatever, if it comes to that, steps necessary to bring in a contractor to handle that, to keep the project site in good condition, and to look to ways to advance activities that may not be directly related to the bridge itself. But Valente, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, similar to what Executive Director Williams mentioned, there is no current plan to change any design that Flatiron Regatta's has on the North Beach area. Remember, they still have the 15 days here to show us that they can take care of the safety concerns that we have in the main bridge. Now, if we get to a point where there is termination, we'll look at that design and see if any changes are required.
And finally, Mark, if they have been ignoring TxDOT for over a year, what makes you think they're going to come up with actual solutions to these design flaws in 2 weeks?
I'm not going to speculate on that. I can't speculate on that right now. All I can say is they've got 2 weeks to go. This gentleman right here, and then we'll have to wrap up. I apologize.
Kind of piggyback off of that, I just wanted some clarification. Did things change when they became unresponsive before the third-party review, or had this been ongoing for some time that they weren't responding to TxDOT?
Well, I think the lack of responsiveness really has manifested itself in the last several months with these safety issues, and I can't, again, I'm not going to presuppose what rationale or concerns Flatiron Dragados had for that. We are pretty clear in our confidence that these are undebatable, indisputable issues that need to be addressed. And we stand by that, and we stand by our commitment and expectation that our contracting partner stands with us in addressing these safety issues. I appreciate everybody being here. We do appreciate your coverage of this important issue, and we do have an appreciation of how important this project is, not only to the Corpus Christi region, but the entire state of Texas. So thank you all very much.